We see adverts every year, loneliness affecting the elderly at Christmas, but new statistics show it is a pandemic sweeping the nation, apparently. A lot of lonely people out there, and it's not just the elderly. Up to 70% of under 35s now claim they suffer from loneliness, with the elderly at 43%. What is going on? Jill Fraser is the co-founder of Kissing It Better. Jill, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
I mean, we hear all sorts of analogies made about loneliness, don't we? Loneliness is as bad as for your health as smoking 10 cigarettes a day and these kind of things. I have no struggle in understanding that. It can be chronic, it can be choking, it can be horrendous. I mean, true loneliness rather than feeling a little bit, lonely for half an hour when your other half has gone shopping or something. That's love, actually. But loneliness is clearly something that we should take very seriously.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that it is difficult to define it. As you just said, you can say you feel lonely for half an hour. That's not the same as somebody, particularly in the pandemic, when it really, became so apparent to everybody that people were stuck inside for weeks and weeks at a time, the elderly in particular, worrying that they might not even survive and get COVID and nobody would even know about it. The horror of that is not the same as as I say, the odd half hour here and there. But yes, we have noticed that lots of young people are also lonely because we're an intergenerational charity. So our aim is to connect young people with older people, to have conversations and to hopefully help each other. And that's exactly proved to be the case. We started off mainly trying to reduce the isolation of old age, but when we connected the young people together, we realised that it had a sort of effect both sides.
And this is something that can, obviously, mental health can then affect physical health, as I sort of alluded to at the beginning as well. So it's ongoing, of course. If you're not seeing anybody, like literally day to day, week to week, I don't think I've ever lived in that sort of scenario at all. Everyone likes the odd day when they're on their Todd and did my shopping, took my parcels back to the post office, laid on the bed, did that star thing because I was on my own and it was fantastic and it was lovely. You can enjoy that, but this is, clearly essentially an illness.
What we're trying to raise awareness of is that in every village, every town, there are countless people who are lonely and you know about them. To be honest, the likes of I would know that there were people living on their own in my village, or people, long periods of time they can't get out. And what we say to our young people is, you might be aware that the lady down the road doesn't get out much, or it might be a close relative. You need to do something about it. And if you do something about it, and to think about it, do it. Pick up that phone and make a phone call. Or if you're making a cake, make two and take one round to that person. Or maybe drop as I said the other day, it's coming up to Christmas, drop a TV guide through the door and maybe start a discussion about what do you think you'll be watching over Christmas. Create that connection, because you'll be so thrilled yourself that you've made a difference. When somebody says, thank you so much for thinking of me, it's really made a difference. And the legacy of that visit doesn't just last for however long you're on the doorstep or whatever. Once you've left, that person feels less isolated for a little while afterwards, because they're aware that somebody in the community has taken the trouble to care about them a little bit. And so I think it's really important.
Absolutely. The whole issue of younger people being lonely, though, that's the headline that I think has grabbed many, because, when older people are lonely, which is obviously also awful, but you can at least see how it happened. You can see that somebody became widowed, they're on their own, they don't have a great social life, they might have mobility issues. But when you're 30 years old and you're lonely, you do scratch your head and think, what the heck's gone on here?
Well, I think we have to look at the meaning of loneliness. So is it linked to feeling of hopelessness at times? Is that young people sitting on their own, looking at social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, and it appears that all their friends are doing really exciting things, when the reality is that most of them are as lonely, if not more lonely than they are. And often when they start to get a job, they're working from home, so they're not getting that connection with people around them and sensing a greater understanding of what the world's really like. That's when it gets to be quite serious, so we encourage young people to come on to our Zooms. We run Zooms every day. We started it in the pandemic when we had no choice, but they are as lively almost today as they were 5 years ago when the pandemic started, because there's that sense of connection. And a lot of young people come on, and I remember in the early days when my colleagues said, we're doing really well. Some people come on to every single session, and I said, well, I'd like to think we're doing well, but actually it's because so many young people are lonely, and they come onto a space where there might be 20 or 30 other people having a chat. chat with older people, and they feel part of a gang, and they feel safe, and they feel, because we know them all, that we would always engage with all of them at some point during that session, that they too get a sense of value and purpose. And when they come off that Zoom, because I always say at the end, thank you so much for coming on, it was great, blah, 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 there's a sense of feeling valued. And I think when we all live and work in isolation, whether it's social media during the evenings or working on our own when we are out and about during the day, when we're not going out to work, we're staying at home, we lose that sense of being valued beyond the actual job we're trying to do.
Yeah. And of course, on a deeper level as well, you can be lonely in a crowd, can't you? I mean, it's not always just about specific interaction.
I think that's the big thing, is that loneliness is an emotion, and if you look it up, it'll say it's a feeling of feeling.
Yeah.
It's feeling sad. It's a painful emotional experience to be lonely. You can choose to be isolated. As you say, you can do your star stretch, or you can choose to have a day at home, and you're effectively isolated, but you've made that choice. And we do teach young people how many people can be lonely in a crowded room. And as we come up to Christmas, we say to all of them, you know, you'll get granny, great grandfather, whoever it might be, come round, and they'll be sitting in a corner, and somebody will say, are they all right? Even without asking. Oh no, they've said they're fine. But the reality is they can't hear above the babble of the noise. It's hard to engage in conversation, but they are intensely lonely at that point, because everybody else seems to be having a good time and nobody is really engaging with them. If you're in a care home, as many were in the pandemic, you won't be on your own. You'll be in a room full of people, but you feel incredibly lonely because the separation that you feel from those that you most care about is incredibly intense. Yeah. So we teach about the loneliness of a crowded room, which in some cases can be worse than being on your own, because you can see the people who are not engaging with you, and it makes you feel more intense about your situation.
And of course, you know, Christmas, if anything compounded that feeling, I guess it's Christmas time. There is something about it, putting the tree up. If you do put a tree up, of course, you may decide not to if you're on your own. Maybe that makes it, I don't know, a sort of almost a more isolating situation. But, you know, we put our tree up yesterday, and we were oddly talking about in our neck of the woods of, you know, try to find out, there's a couple of those kind of WhatsApp groups for locals and the neighbourhood thing, asking people to ask if there's a neighbour around that is going to be on their own at Christmas, and would they like a Christmas dinner, and, you know, to try and encourage people to maybe do something in that respect, us included. And I'd never really thought about it before, but it's only when you look at the lights on the tree, and my kids are playing around being nutters as they tend to be, and the Christmas music is playing, and you've got a glass of wine in your hand while it's all happening. Imagine having none of that, not even not by choice, not even the possibility of doing anything like that.
Well, thanks to the Times Christmas Appeal, which is why this has led to all this, and we've been writing articles in the paper, we've been able to really highlight the fact that as we're coming up to Christmas, it's an tense time when people can feel lonely, and yet there's so much opportunity to engage. Because if you are putting up your Christmas tree, ask your older relatives, so what did you do during the war? What did you do, you know, back even before the war when it was Christmas? How did you celebrate it? Their memories, if they've got early dementia, will be stronger in the long term than they are in the more recent past. Yeah. And they can basically start not just telling you stories, but educating young people to say, because we didn't have this in those days. This wasn't an opportunity for us. They hadn't invented such and such. We made our own Christmas decorations out of painting newspapers or, you know, torn up newspaper, and actually start to give them that opportunity, even to try that today rather than constantly going onto their iPad or iPhone. Why don't we make some Christmas decorations the way we used to do it all those years ago? What are the carols that they most remember, and why are they so important to them? I've got some wonderful stories we've collected about the significance of certain carols and what they meant to people while they were separated from their loved ones during the war. It's a really good time for reminiscence and a really good time to connect. But don't just forget, the worst time of all is January, when it's all over and people think, well, maybe they did do a bit over Christmas. Let's look ahead, because loneliness happens every day of the year and not just at Christmas. Yeah. That's what I would say.
Listen, Jill, it's been great to speak. You also get the accolade of being the first guest of the year to wear a Christmas jumper.
Oh, thank you, yes.
Yeah.
I went into that again. We do say, if you're going to visit somebody who's very lonely, actually wear something that sparks a conversation, because actually we tend to wear black and brown at this time of year, and it's all a bit grim. But if you've got some Christmas earrings or a Christmas necklace or something thing. It's another. This is actually quite retro. This jumper. This goes back probably. This is a design from the 1940s, I think.
I like
So again,
it.
another
Yeah.
another trigger of conversation. Or take something with you that say, "Do you remember this? Because I came across this in our attic. Does this mean anything to you?" Again, you're making that older person not just feel, they're not feeling patronised. They're feeling useful because they'll go, "Oh God, we used to have one of those," whatever it might be.
Yeah, I love that. Listen, great stuff. Jill, thank you for being with us. Jill Fraser, co-founder of Kissing It Better, on that issue of loneliness and also the Christmas jumper. Never done a Christmas jumper. Hate the idea of Christmas jumper. I was thinking of splashing out on a 6/7 festive version because the kids will love that, because that's the last thing they want to see, isn't it? Their dad doing that gag. They're all over the place. The kids, enjoy it. Finn, our producer, he's got Christmas jumper tripe written all over him. He loves all that caper. Bought one last Friday, knitting one at the moment as we speak.